Okay, so we will be talking about layer 3. And as I've said, this term is more used, or it's more in the discussion domain. It's more in the stage of discussion. Even today's presentation by Valera, the layer 3 was interpreted differently. So if for layer 2, Web 2.0, the community have more or less understood what it is, or layer 2, the community kind of agreed on that, but let's talk about something less specific or something less concrete. Let's dig deeper into history. For 10 years now, we've had the first trustless electronic money. Bitcoin emerged in 2008, then altcoins, then smart contracts entered the stage. I'm not gonna enumerate those scary things of yesterday, of last year, sorry. So what next? All of this is basic layer 1. Meaning that we're talking about DLTs, which are a tool to create some value. That's a value that we attach some meaning to. A lot has been said about this today. Many approaches were voiced, many reasons given. So why is adoption rate that low? Why is it underused in the real world? Well, that's also not new. We know the restrictions. We know the DLT limitations. Depending on the consensus mechanism, the underlying consensus mechanism, they're rather slow, limited performance, and so on. On the other hand, we also know that the most reliable public resources, public ledgers, they're more available, they are better. However, that's a loss of security, or worse security. And the price of attack is, the attacks have different price tag. More impact. Now another question is, our registries, our blockchains are not exactly well interacting between themselves well. Interoperability is not that good. I mean, for several years, there have been projects that we were bridging, atomic swaps and so on, but those bridges and atomic swaps do not contribute to the improvement of the situation. It's not working well offline. So these are the reasons why, well, the projects appeared years ago. This year was implementation. This is layer 2. What is layer 2? This is the computational logic which is taken outside of on-chain. It's off-chain scaling. Off-chain computation. You see the layout here with multiple solutions. The first one is state channels. A show of hands who knows how state channels operate. Awesome. But there are people who are unaware of that. So the point of state channels is that between the two nodes, well, in multi-sig, we launch some crypto assets, and that helps us defer off-chain transactions in time. So the off-chain lists the state after our actions. This is about how side chains look, or plasma on the right. This is also a certain logic which is taken outside the event chain. Also, different solutions can be applied here. Could be state channel, side channel. Oh, by the way, I found a mistake in my own slide. Said side chains, not channels. Okay, so everything that's off-chain by definition is off-chain. Everything that's not on-chain. As I mentioned, if we're talking about real-life application, and somebody mentioned that, or was it yesterday at the party, we're supposed to strive towards our performance to be at least comparable. To be at least comparable to the users in real world with centralized technologies. In that case, we can talk about wider adoption, broader adoption. So one important point, when can we talk about layer 2? Well, there are two conceptual points, important points. The first is off-chain. Second one is trustless. So for rootstock, I've even RSK, I've put a question mark because you're supposed to trust some federation or whatever. This is not the end of all the challenges. Layer 2 also has some questions. There are infrastructure-related issues. The nodes are supposed to maintain the state. They're supposed to maintain online, stay online. Routing creates a lot of questions. If there are more than 20,000 nodes, then the routing as is today, well, there's going to be huge issues happening there. Another question from the domain of economics, liquidity. All the channels require crypto assets to be locked. And there is no particular understanding as to whether it's good or bad. So many resources are contributed to the channels, so good or bad. Lightning, Raiden, many projects claim interoperability. However, the assumption is they're not going to work with Bitcoin and Ethereum, respectively. Something that we have now is the resolution of a specific set of problems of a specific blockchain. Okay, so let's talk about operability in real-life terms. So let me showcase you, give you an analogy of the past. This picture is how the railroads were built 150 years ago, when Wild West was conquered in the United States. Different companies were in charge of constructing the railroads, and they were all interlinked into one chain. And this is the way it looks like, the crypto industry looks like from the viewpoint of layer 2. Imagine that every railroad company will build their own railway into the same places. There will be a whole lot of overlapping. There's abundant, too much resource use and lost opportunities, which is even worse than duplication. Duplication of efforts. So this is my main teaser finally, something I was going to talk to you about. We refer to it as layer 3, and not just us. It's not even us who came up with this layer 3 definition. So this is where we talk about protocols that can off-chain connect various assets. It's not interoperability, not from blockchain to blockchain. But we need to pick up all the properties that came from layer 2, the properties, features, high commission, high performance, low commission, low fees. So we want to maintain that. We want to keep that. The key features are listed in this slide. The first of all is off-chain logic. And we're talking about some overlay over the existing infrastructure. The second bit is it's important that these transactions would be trustless, meaning that yes, it's much easier to handle this if there is a centralized escrow. However, whenever we talk about network, whenever we talk about global overlay, this is where we require an infrastructure that will be independent of some third parties or whatever. So bottom line, the very important point is multi-asset. Well, to imagine what we're talking about, to wrap your head around that, please, 150 years ago, tell what global internet is to the person back then, 150 years ago. 50 years ago, some local area networks could have been put into operation, but again, explaining to a rank and file person, to a common person, the advantages of global internet back then, yeah, you could have had a shot at that, but then again, that person would have a hard time understanding what you're trying to communicate. The same story with layer 3. Everything that's going on, it's a very good thing. It's powering all of us. It's inspiring me because that's why I'm here. So the capacities of internet are still to be unraveled, the true capacities. Those of you who know how internet works, this can be split into multiple layers, 7 of them. There is a physical layer, there is data link, network transport layer, layer 4, and upper layers, user layer, That's about how we see the current situation, the status quo in the future of crypto industry. Layer 1 is distributed ledgers, layer 2 scaling solutions, layer 3 interoperable off-chain protocols uniting various assets. Then there's protocols for atomicity, for infrastructure, channel locking, and then application level, layer 5. Now, talking about it in more detail, because it's a fairly interesting topic, and it took me quite some time to wrap my head around it myself. What is layer 1 from the viewpoint of internet? If internet is a way of decentralized communication of information, then we are primarily talking about Internet of Values, IOV, Internet of Value. Layer 1 is a physical layer in the internet. It's some information storage medium where the information travels. Talking about blockchain and distributed ledgers, that's a value holder. This is where the value is held. Same as information. This is a subjectively unlimited resource. We can pass the value on. The crypto asset that we created in a DLT, well, we express that value in it. What is layer 2 from the viewpoint of internet? That's local area networks. That's LANs. We have mastered data communication in LANs. The same is scaling solutions in IOV. This is how layer 3 could look like. If in the internet analogy would be the IP and routing infrastructure, meaning that I can identify someone who connected to the global network. Then in IOV, this looks give or take like this. Ledger 1, 2, 3. These are the examples of distributed ledgers. Could be Bitcoin, could be Ethereum, anything else. Then these connections, these are the nodes, those round things, those circles, as a off-chain solution option. They are connected with lines of multiple colors, that's various assets. At the same time, we can interact within the same transaction, multiple assets can engage. Who knows how Visa works? I do. Well, there are a few people who know that. What's the name of ruble in Belarus? Ruble. If you come to China and you want to pay in Belarusian ruble, well, the transaction is not happening. It's cleared because the Visa Technologies does not allow that. The ruble is exchanged into dollars, and the dollars are exchanged into yuan, so CNY. So this is how you get this cross-border platform, cross-border payment. Same situation can happen in IT world, where you pack multiple assets in a single transaction, and you create a solution of a brand new level with a brand new feature set. Or as a crypto buff's dream, if I only have Bitcoin in my wallet, I come to China, use a QR code, everything is QR code based in China. I've paid for something, and this transaction is happening over the air, like Bitcoin to dollar to yuan. It's also possible, and one of the applications in cooperation with us, they are deploying this as we speak. That's about how it looks. That's about how we perceive it, how we envisage it. The lower layer are various crypto assets, various blockchains. Then comes layer 2 and layer 3. Something I've been referring to. It could simultaneously be Bitcoin, Ethereum, even fiat currencies. Clearly, it's not a distributed ledger, well, it's a stable coin. It's a more trusted system. However, it can be connected via protocol without any issues. Could be some customary solutions, custom solutions like kilowatts of electricity or human labor or whatever. Man hours. So it's kind of present but also the future. Because Well, it can take fewer than the fingers of my single hand to enumerate the projects who are dealing with that. There are multiple challenges that still need to be tackled. Primarily, it's supposed to be blockchain agnostic. The majority of the projects that exist on layer 2, they started handling the issues of layer 1. And because of that, their technology is only limited with first layer. If Lightning is sourcing from crypto, Raiden is coming from the smart contract capability. So then you can unite them. Uniting them from different technological stacks, well, it's kind of challenging. It's got to be a versatile project easily integratable. It's not like one project does something and they expect everybody else to fall in line, to follow their banner. Well, there are multiple factors that get involved in the implementation phase. Next up, like I said, is a hell of a problem. Trustless transactions involving multiple assets. I believe many of you understand the complexity behind it. It's keeping high performance, and at the same time we're supposed to realize if it's a network, if it's Lightning Network, multiplied by a certain number of assets, the routing will become even more complicated than something we have now. And another important issue, although currently the network can operate without it, but this will facilitate implementation a lot. This Web 3.0. Web 3.0, decentralized identification, self-sovereign identity, SSI. So if I, as an entity, want to participate want to work with multiple assets, with multiple blockchains, if this decentralized and self-sovereign identity existed, my life would have been a whole lot easier. This is the picture of global asset network. On the one hand, we can have blockchain, we can have fiat money, we can have some custom solutions, and all of this can interact within a single layer 3 network. And this is indeed the future. Now, another interesting thing, something that was mentioned today. There have been several mentionings. There were several words that we are taking a lot of logic into off-chain. When these protocols enter our lives, can you imagine the growth in applications that we can use them for? It could be payment solutions, could be cross-chain DEX, a crypto Visa, kind of a cross-board payment. It could be a more challenging logical solution, generalized SCs, and the Internet of Things, IoT solutions. It's also part of that. Thank you, everyone. If there are any questions, I'm prepared to take them. Yes, there seem to be questions. Thank you for the presentation. I have more of an abstract question. Development of software for layer 3, how does it look like if layer 2 is not complete? Well, essentially, we've been at it for 3 years now. We just didn't know there was a name for it, layer 3. A year ago, when we started comparing or benchmarking against what was available, there was a lot of matching stuff between our project and this. Like I said, if we want this protocol to be really versatile, like TCP/IP in the internet, it must be agnostic. It must be easily implementable solution. We cannot link, we cannot anchor ourselves to a specific blockchain. If you're interested about the development itself, there's the GitHub link for Geo protocol. So essentially, a first beta version is coming out soon. So please, feel free to be a part of the development team for this protocol, or there will be some ready-made solutions that you can contribute based on this protocol. We are interested in external expertise at this point, so yeah, you'll be welcome. Am I correct to understand that this beta that you are unveiling it is on top of Lightning or Raiden, or what can it do? Okay, so you're interested in the MO, yes, mode of operation. Yes, there are many issues to be resolved. I'm not clear as how you do it. Okay, so let me clarify. If we break any state channel into layers, it's multi-sig. Then there's some routing algorithm and payment algorithm. If we're talking about payment that happens through several hops, a routing and payment algorithm is the protocol that we've written up. This written up protocol is versatile. I mean, you can do the accounting and payment in any asset. This works in distributed networks and atomary transactions. There are several nodes that can be linked through special sort of links, and we can make a payment in any asset from one node to another without a common ledger. Now, for those transactions to be trustless, then we can use additional layers of multi-sigs for those channels. One channel, Bitcoin multi-sig, another channel, Ethereum and so on. Ethereum channel, and so on. So we've separated this technology. We made sure that the recording, the accounting and movement of assets is versatile, but the trustless functionality where the asset is locked, value is locked, so we can avoid doing that. I mean, anybody who puts a multi-sig on top can do it. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Unfortunately, I'm not very proficient about the terms. Yeah, me neither. I don't know the terminology either. Okay, so referring to more traditional networks, you've made an analogy with OSI layers. But as we remember, when you transfer that model into a real environment, the stack, the TCP/IP, much cheaper stack, fewer layers, it won. When you did this, when you made this analogy right now, from your viewpoint, can any layer be implemented differently? Can you lose one of the layers so that it's not just based on similarity? Or how do I put it? How do you optimize it? Okay, so you believe that if you lose something, if we lose something, it will be easier. Well, I believe that one layer can be implemented differently, can be realized differently, without using the analogy on the left-hand side, existing layers of internet. So it can be implemented differently at the same time. This will give a performance boost or cost reduction or whatever, something important for the right-hand side, for ILV. Okay, essentially, if we're talking about some structure or some layers, that's all abstraction. Any entity can be broken down into one layer or could be 1,000 layers, including human beings. Internet, well, TCP/IP didn't really simplify things. TCP/IP is a transport layer. IP is a, so one is transport layer, one is network layer. Right-hand side, IOV. As I mentioned, this is just a suggestion on the part of several communities. How it's going to look like in reality, 4 layers or 7 layers, I'm drawing a blank here because it's not the technology question, it's the community acceptance. It's about community acceptance. Essentially, the technology can be one and the same. Okay, maybe at some of these layers, you've seen that there are so many problems that it's better to lose it. Okay. Yes, that feeling is when you have Bitcoin and you want something else. This is when you want to lose something, yeah. Got it, thank you. Yes, thank you for interesting points. I've realized your vision is like this. The cafe only accepts Bitcoin. I only have Ethereum in my wallet, so I can use your stuff to pay for the coffee. So who is determining the price? In exchange, liquidity, how exactly does it happen? When we're talking about versatility, why did I run an analogy between internet? It's internet because it's versatile. Us, in our solution, we also consider this versatility. There is a channel in blockchain, there is a channel in Ethereum, a channel in Bitcoin, a channel in Ethereum. If you receive Bitcoin, I'm prepared to send this much Ethereum onwards. And there could be 1 million of you. And the routing will find the way to transmit this information. The principal objective is versatility. Well, it's clear that the human brain will not be able to do that kind of math, but the protocol itself will determine the best pathway for asset transfer. Thank you. Thank you. We'll live to see. Any further questions? How much time does what take? Well, what we have now is it takes several seconds. Unfortunately, the questions without the mic are not heard. Okay, so thank you for the questions. Well, we're here, a homey atmosphere. We can communicate. So, welcome. Please join us. We'll be happy.